Welcome to the conversation. My name is Shannon Taylor. I'm the Executive Director. And in the background is the Honorable Arthur Schack, one of our pioneer members from Supreme Court in Brooklyn, Kings County. We have had our previous program last December on interfaith and interracial dating and marriage with both the Honorable Arthur and his wife Delia Schack, both of whom were charter members on our pioneer sojourn and judicial fact-finding mission to Israel. And we'll discuss that, as well as the recent calling up to the Court of Appeals from Governor Spitzer of the administrative judge for Brooklyn Supreme Court, Theodore Jones, who hosted our mission on its return from Israel at his headquarters, so to speak, 360 Adams Street, where the Honorable Arthur Schack has his Supreme Court. But first, I just want to give a few notes about last night's core dinner. This was a rip-roaring event in the old town last night. We had, of course, Roy and Niger Innes as the most perfect hosts for the annual tribute and memorial to the late Reverend Martin Luther King. And among the many speakers paying homage was one in particular I wanted to pay tribute to. Her name is Miss Ayaan Hirsi Ali, women's rights advocate, former member of Parliament of the Netherlands. You may remember that a descendant of the artist Van Gogh was murdered in the Netherlands, and she is associated with his cause. She is promoting, of course, the liberation of women, and she advocated against all the discrimination, prejudice, and backwoods, holding back and torture and so forth of women in Africa, Asia, and Europe by Islamic practices that are just not conducive to anything amounting to equality between men and women. It has nothing to do with the practice of religion. It has to do with tribalism. It has to do with the simple totalitarian regimes that refuse to, in her words, see women as coming from the same God as men. And she has been responsible for the book and play Obsession, and hopefully will not face the same fate as her late partner Van Gogh. And I wish her all the very best. Time magazine, to quote Mr. Innes, named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world of last year. And it was quite a shock to hear from her after I had been subjected to Monsanto in past years, and DDT prospects in Africa, and that miserable hater from Austria. And it's quite to the credit of the core organization to have brought her forth, because I had not heard her from any other source. And to hear the Mighty Sparrow, who I'd heard from Willie Thompson Jr. as controller in the Caribbean Salute programs, and various ministries and reverends that I was frankly not familiar with for obvious reasons, and they were all extremely forthcoming and encouraging and delivering of hope for the coming years. The Mighty Sparrow's real name is Dr. Slinger Francisco, and Dr. Frederick Price of the Crenshaw Christian Center was the pastor being honored for outstanding leadership awards. We hope to engage them all in dialogue in the future. And now I would love to turn to our honored guest, the Honorable Arthur Schack, and ask if first of all, if he's heard of these various outstanding people. The Reverend Price, to begin with. Judge Schack?
The Reverend Price, I'm afraid I'm not familiar with. The Mighty Sparrow I am familiar with. Tremendous entertainer.
And what did you think of the Mighty Sparrow when you have seen him perform?
I've seen him perform at concerts that the Brooklyn Borough President, Marty Markowitz, puts on in his summer series of concerts. Sparrow is a great entertainer, no question.
Now, Roy Innes described him at the outset as saying that Roy has been said that he's old, In fact, he was described as a monolith, a walking monolith. He says, but this sparrow here is one old bird. So how old is the mighty sparrow? I can't figure it out.
I'm not sure of his age. I know he's up there. Whatever he is, and God bless him.
Age was a subject of much ribald humor last night, and Sean Hannity, who was the introductory speaker, said that his inspiration for radio and broadcasting was Barry Farber, who was our preceding guest on this very show. And Barry Farber was, of course, an inspiration for many, not conservative or liberal. You couldn't peg him in those days. There was no agenda.
I mean, eventually, didn't he become a registered conservative? I know he was a conservative candidate for mayor in '77, I believe.
When he ran for mayor, yes.
Right. But you're right, he's hard to pigeonhole.
But other than that, he is across the spectrum, as I am, despite what people may think. And as a matter of fact, on last week's program, I couldn't lead him into any particular answer. He was quite glib across all the pages, and he turns out to be 76. Now, if he's a quite proud 76, and the sparrow was up there flying across the stage with a whole entourage of performers, and he sang with the best of them. I mean, there was a voice that ran from tenor to baritone, doing wobblings and all types of various wonderfully engaging sounds. I would love to know, not knowing Roy's age, how you can perform so well at the sparrow's age. But put that.
He must be in great shape physically and takes care of himself. I don't know what else to attribute that to.
I have a cousin who's approaching 90, who does 90 laps a day, and says that's what accounts for you being in great shape. And I still dispute that. I say a good night's rest is what can keep you in shape without doing anything more. What do you think of that?
I disagree with you 100% because I might not look it, but I do go to the gym on occasion in the morning. So I think a good night's rest helps, sleep helps, but certainly exercise doesn't hurt either.
We also had this speaker from the Netherlands. Have you heard of her?
You were talking about me before we went on the air, but it's coming back to me. Was that the member of parliament or the filmmaker that she was related to who was assassinated? Unless I'm thinking of the wrong person.
Yes, Van Gogh. Van Gogh, yes.
He was the one who was assassinated, but was it a Muslim, what we'll call a Muslim extremist?
They claim credit.
Okay.
They claim credit because he was saying that Islam is repressing women and so on, and so they retaliated. I don't know who. I don't know what. People claim credit for all kinds of things.
In other words, they've never apprehended the alleged perpetrator. Is that correct?
Not to my knowledge.
I mean, it's shocking that if someone expresses opinions that someone is not thrilled with or doesn't agree with, that someone would actually murder a person for exercising their right to speak out. I hope that's not what caused his murder if they ever find the murderer.
Well, I'll quote from the bio that was presented. In 2004, together with director Theo van Gogh, she made Submission, a film about the oppression of women in conservative Islamic cultures. They don't name specifically which cultures, but she mentioned all through Africa.
Okay.
And the airing of the film on Dutch television sparked much controversy, as well as violent reaction, which resulted in the assassination of Van Gogh by an Islamic extremist on November 2nd, 2004. A letter pinned to Van Gogh's body with a knife was primarily a death threat to Hirsi Ali herself. In 2004, the group The Hague Connection produced and distributed the rap song Hirsi Ali This. The lyrics of this song included yet more violent threats against her life. The rappers, in this case, were prosecuted under Article 121 of the Dutch Criminal Code because they hindered the execution of Hirsi Ali's tasks as a politician. After the incident, Ali went into hiding in the Netherlands. On November 16, 2005, she was seriously threatened by the Imam Sheikh Fawaz. This Imam, who worked in a mosque in The Hague, announced on the internet that Ali would be blown away by the wind of changing times and she could anticipate the curse of Allah. In 2005, then she was named and so on. She was, in 2006, nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. She currently works at the American Enterprise Institute and so on. There's a lot more to our bio I won't go into, but I'm sure that the incidents we're talking about were the result of many planners. And if you catch anybody, they don't catch everyone. And she is still presently, thank God, alive. And obviously there is a threat of intimidation to anyone who wants to draw cartoons or have free speech or point out the type of life that one is going to have under repressive regimes. And this is the threat that we are facing in the Western world.
Well, the Netherlands, like the United States, is an open society, and let's hope we can maintain that so that people with differing opinions and views can at least exchange the views peacefully and civilly, so we don't have to worry about repercussions. I think that's the hallmark of our society. No two people have to agree on everything, but at least we can exchange ideas and have normal civil discourse without people resorting to violence. So it's a shame what happened to this gentleman in the Netherlands, and this woman certainly has a right to speak out.
I know that our police commissioner has sent one representative after another to make inroads into the Islamic community here in New York City. And I know that Brooklyn has done the same under Marty Markowitz, and I know that our mayor has a chaplain in charge of all the chaplains who's Islamic and who does what he pleases in his free time, and I would support that as well. I don't think you should be penalized for what you do in your free time. Correct. And as to my knowledge, has not made threats against any individual, but apparently in Europe they are living under a very, very different type of oppression, and I would hope that that would not find inroads into America.
I would agree with you. I'm thinking within our own court system. I'm thinking of, for instance, some of the commemorative occasions we've had to remember what happened on 9/11. Not only have we had priests and rabbis and ministers, we've had imams who were there. Certainly, I think that as we condemn terrorism in the world, I don't think any of us are saying that that Islam is a terrorist religion. There are certain individuals who certainly represent an extreme point of view, and I'm sure we have that with Christianity, Judaism, and other religions. Extremism, no matter who you represent, is certainly something that we have to worry about. Certainly, I would think that God, however you worship God, is peaceful. God is peaceful. God, I think all religions believe in that. So let's hope we can have, certainly, be wonderful. We could all live together in peace, but unfortunately that's not necessarily the situation in the world. But that's something that we strive for. Certainly this lady has a right to live in peace.
I know in Brooklyn under Borough President Markowitz, who is a ball of fire and fun, and I advised him
much more
against...
than I am.
Well, I advised him against his eating habits, which led to open heart surgery only recently.
Well, that was last spring. I think he's trying to watch himself.
Well, he had a whole week of Islamic programming about culture and music and so on, which only happened under his tenure, did not occur before. And you had Islamic groups from across the board, from 23 different nationalities and nations and so on participating in this. So there's plenty to offer besides an agenda of threats and violence. Now, Ms. Ali mentioned at great length that the vast majority today, unfortunately, in her account, of repression was coming from blacks against blacks, from Muslims against Muslims. And she backed that up, and the vast majority of the audience of thousands last night were African American, with quite a few Muslims. And there was not one discordant voice to her message, and she received a standing ovation. And so we all have to clean house.
I would agree. I think this is the interesting part of fact of life in this country. People somehow manage to live together. Marty Markowitz always likes to cite Brooklyn as an example that we could export Brooklyn to the rest of the world. Jews, Muslims, Christians, Arabs, Jews, black, white, you name it, Asians. Everybody lives together with a minimum of discord. Now, if we could export that to the rest of the world, it would be a wonderful thing. But we haven't. So, but that's the situation. Apropos of that, I'm trying to remember which paper it was. I saw it this morning, an article, now it escapes me, about how on one side, two sides of the street in Brooklyn, on Atlantic Avenue, you have one side of the street there's a Sunni mosque, the other side of the street there's a Shiite mosque. Somehow they managed to live together without killing each other. It's not Baghdad, it's Brooklyn.
And what do you think about all our years together at Stuyvesant High School? Is that not the message that we try to bring there?
I think so, and I think through that group, the group which certainly you had, Judge Thompson certainly, he was a major founder of the organization, and for want of a better term, I'll call him our godfather, but certainly we all have the utmost respect and love for Willie Thompson. But not just blacks and Jews in conversation. Notice it's not just blacks and Jews, but others. Certainly brings that message of what I'll call understanding and respect for each other. I don't want to use the word tolerance. Tolerance to me means you sort of like put up with somebody, but you might not want to live with them. I think that the organization that we represent shows not only we celebrate our differences, but we also celebrate the human values that we all share.
Now, we were going to Seton Hall Law School, sponsored by the Latin American law students, the Jewish Law Society, the Black Law Students Association, and the Office of Career Services, with the participation of Dean Cornwell and the absence of the law school's dean, who's away this week. And we decided to postpone it from tomorrow night, because of Martin Luther King week is a heavy agenda, over to March. And I'll be meeting with the law school next week. And the agenda was the career possibilities for minorities in the legal profession. And your wife, Delia, yourself, and Judge Deborah Dowling, and others were going to be on the panel, and they'll be in March. And of course, we'll be dealing with this same subject. Do you
certainly a very diverse panel.
Well, we believe in diversity.
Well, we certainly do.
We have included diversity from our inception, with women as well as men.
I think that's a wonderful thing, that we celebrate diversity. Celebrate the fact that people come from different backgrounds, but people are individuals. We judge them on their individual worth. To us, their background's irrelevant. It's what the individual can do.
We also did the first program on Darfur in 1996 at 111 Center Street with 30 judges and 20 attorneys and the press and all the newspapers, thanks to the pioneering journalism from the Village Voice and Kol Vital from the Israeli Embassy and representatives from Governor Pataki and Mayor Giuliani. We addressed the subject of Darfur then, and it took 10 years for everybody else to catch up to us. And that was the whole subject of slavery in the Sudan.
Shannon, if you were in Washington, wouldn't it be a wonderful world if we had you at the State Department?
The State Department does not go along with any of our programs. I beg to differ. The State Department would have shipped me out to Transylvania or something.
But seriously, I think the fact is that we do celebrate the fact that we come out of a diverse world, but we have a number of talented individuals who make the world a better place for all of us.
Would you talk a little bit about mission to Israel from last year? Because we're going again in May. I'd like to have the benefit of your remarks.
Well, I found that to be a wonderful trip. I believe there were 18 of us. 14 were judges. Actually, well, I'm not sure whether Willie counts because he's a retired judge, whether he was in the other 4.
Oh, he's the big honcho. He was in Appellate Division leading the force.
He's a wonderful guy, but we had, in our group, he was our leader, but there were 18 of us. We got an inside view of the justice system within the State of Israel. We visited with judges. We went to the Supreme Court of Israel. We also got a look at the issues involved with what Israel calls the fence, but this is the security fence or between Israel and the West Bank. Which has certainly stopped terrorism and cut down on murder and assaults upon Israelis. It has saved lives. So we saw the fence up close and personal. We even got to visit in a border town up in the Galilee between Israel and I'm trying to remember the town. Ramallah, not Ramallah, the Jenin, I'm sorry. We could see Jenin off in the hills. But we got to see the fence. We went up to the Golan Heights. We met with key people in the Israeli Justice Ministry, the Foreign Ministry, the Defense Ministry. We had lunch with the Israeli Judge Advocate General. We had a briefing with a retired General Rothschild, who formerly commanded, I believe, the Southern Command or Southern Front in Israel. So we met with a lot of top people. We also met with NYPD's representative in Israel. I don't know if people know this, but the New York City Police Department has its own, has on the ground its own eyes and ears throughout the world, a number of first-grade detectives from the Intelligence Division. We met with Detective Morty Drzansky, who's just a great person who, not only in terms of what his mission is, representing the city with Israel and acting as a liaison, but he was able to also get us into some interesting places. So we got to thank Morty as well. Hopefully the group will meet with him this year. But we had a lot packed within a very short period of time, and we gained a great insight into how the Israelis are dealing with their justice system, dealing with terrorism, and yet still maintaining the rule of law. Just fascinating how the similarities as well as the differences in terms of how they operate. I say differences because in Israel, for instance, all judges are appointed. They don't have elected judges as we do in New York. In Israel, there are no jury trials. We have the right to a trial by jury. The Israelis have patterned their judicial system on the English model. So, I mean, the judges don't wear wigs, but a lot of other similarities to the British system. But one of which is not a trial by jury, trial by judges. So, but a fascinating trip, great insight into a society that's certainly in certain ways very modern, but other ways ancient in terms of the history. So just a great time. I wish we could have had 2 or 3 times the amount of time that we had when we were there, just to see so much. But whoever goes is going to have a great time.
I know that your wife, who is a Christian, would echo your statements. And what has been the impact that has lasted with the two of you since the trip?
I think we have a greater understanding of the problems that Israel faces as a survivor in a very tough neighborhood. We were lucky enough to be there before the outbreak of the fighting with the Hezbollah shooting in the rockets from Lebanon. I think we were there, what, about 5 weeks before the fighting broke out?
I wasn't lucky. I planned it like that.
Which, just a little anecdote, we spent the night up on a kibbutz, probably, if it was named now escapes me, but what would you say, approximately about a mile from the Lebanese border. And I commented to my wife, I said, we're in the mortar range of Hezbollah on the other side. And of course she told me to shut up, feel like a wife. But in retrospect, I don't think we would have been able to go there in terms of the fighting during the war. Thank God the war has ended. Let's hope and pray that the state of Israel can continue to exist. Certainly it's a beacon of democracy in the Middle East. But certainly it was a fascinating trip in terms of things we've learned and we saw firsthand and continue to learn and see. And we got a certain insight that I don't think the average person gets due to this trip, due to the people we met with. In the Israeli government, from the American side, I'll say not only Morty Drzansky, with the trip itself, we were lucky enough to meet with the American ambassador to Israel. Who else but you, Shannon, could have us land in the country at 2 in the afternoon, and by 4 in the afternoon, here we are with a private meeting with the American ambassador. And certainly a gorgeous place for the embassy overlooking the Mediterranean in Tel Aviv.
Not only that, but my brother-in-law joined us there. He was on a separate sponsored trip with his weavers too. Work of the weavers, the weavers, and he had separated from his group in Jerusalem to come find me, and our guide, Sri, had been at the concert at a place where they didn't fly the Israeli flag to promote peace. Somehow or other that promotes peace, and he heard their wonderful concert, already bought their CDs, and on the bus he went without even needing my assistance.
Well, I got to tell you, if you can get that guide again, Zvi, this man must be, what about it? He's pushing 70 if he's not 70. With the talk about the mighty sparrow, he could give him a run for his money, Zvi.
We have 3 minutes left. Would you talk about the most recent news, not only affecting the court system, but New York State, and that is the ascension of the judge I mentioned at the very beginning of the program, Ted Jones, who was kind enough at your initial request, my persistence, to host us upon our return of 360 Adams, the American Israel Friendship League, our sponsor, Blacks and Jews in Conversation, and our little mission. He is now, I believe, going on to a higher venue where I'll never see him.
Well, I think we'll see Judge Jones, a great man. I mean, it's subject to confirmation by the state Senate, but I don't want to speculate, but I see no reason why the state Senate should not confirm him. Governor Spitzer 2 days ago announced the appointment of Judge Jones to a vacancy on the highest court of the state, the Court of Appeals. I think it's an outstanding selection. He's an experienced jurist, 17 years a judge. As he said, he was humbled by the governor's appointment, but he's a man of who will certainly make his mark on the court. He's fair, he's deliberative, he's got a proven record of being the right person, I think, at the right time. He served our country not only as a judge, he's actually a Vietnam veteran. As he jokes, he can't tell you what he did in the war because he'd have to kill you otherwise. But certainly, he was decorated for his service to his country. He was a teacher, later became a lawyer, and ultimately a judge. And I think he'll be an outstanding jurist. I can't obviously comment on any specific issues, but I think he certainly will be fair. He's a scholar, and I think he'll do us all proud in representing us on the Court of Appeals.
I worked with you briefly when you were at the criminal court. Then you ascended to the Supreme Court criminal term by election.
I like the way you say ascended. The vote is the people of the state, the people of the Kings County and Richmond County did the right thing. I'll leave it at that. They elected me.
And in our last minute, would you tell us all, and thank you so very much for coming, what you did under Judge Jones?
Well, Judge Jones has done an outstanding job for the last year as the administrative judge of civil term in Kings County Supreme, which means he's in charge of the building, and not only scheduling, but coming up with any kind of innovative programs and being the supervisor of that court. With approximately 35 judges, that's a rough assignment. Somebody once said supervising judges is like herding cats. Well, he's the chief cat as far as I'm concerned. He's just a great individual, wonderful human being, and I think certainly he will do an outstanding job on the Court of Appeals.
And you're still in the civil term.
Correct.
And what is the limit of damages?
Unlimited.
Unlimited.
Sky's the limit. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but the sky is the limit. Certainly have a right to sue.
And the limit before you were there?
Well, it's anything over $25,000.
Thank you so very much, and best
You're
regards to Delia. We hope to see you again very shortly, and with Judge Jones as well.
Thank you.